Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Tel Aviv. Coming up in today's newscast, 2 terror attacks are foiled by Israeli security. Hebrew University helps prove one of Albert Einstein's biggest theories, and ILTV has an exclusive interview with an Israeli superstar. I'm Natasha Kirchak here with the latest news in Israel. The recent wave of violence in Israel appears to be far from over. Just today alone, Israeli security foiled 2 different terror attacks. Israeli police prevented a stabbing attack at a checkpoint just outside of Jerusalem. A Palestinian man allegedly rushed towards a group of police with a knife, and another guard watching the area through a security camera warned the officers before the attacker managed to hurt anybody. Police shot and subdued the attacker, and he later died from his wounds. This was the second attempted terror attack today. Just hours earlier, a Palestinian teenager opened fire on IDF soldiers in the northern West Bank. The soldiers were called to the area after reports that 2 rock throwers were targeting cars driving near the Palestinian city of Jenin. One of the teens fired on the Israeli soldiers when they arrived, and both of the attackers were killed by return fire from the soldiers. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations is calling on Israel to support a 2-state solution despite Israeli pushback. Samantha Power arrived in Israel today to meet with Israeli and Palestinian leaders. Power is considered a close advisor to President Barack Obama, and she was originally supposed to visit Israel and the Palestinian Authority in January. During her current trip to the Holy Land, Power is set to speak with both Israeli and Palestinian leaders to discuss America's commitment to a 2-state solution. Last month, the U.S. ambassador condemned recent Palestinian terror attacks in the West Bank, including the Palestinian Authority's incitement to violence. At the same time, she spoke out against the construction of a new settlement in the Etzion bloc, saying the United States strongly opposes settlement activity, although it should never be an excuse for violence. The Israeli Prime Minister has recently announced that a 2-state solution is not possible given the current situation in the Middle East, and his sentiments have been backed up by leadership from the Israeli opposition. Israel has lost one of its most famous military heroes. IDF General Avigdor Yanush Ben-Gal is known for his heroic service in the Yom Kippur War, and he sadly passed away on Saturday at the age of 80. Ben-Gal was born in Poland in 1936. And after the Germans invaded, his family fled to Siberia. His parents died on the way, but he and his sister eventually made it to Israel in 1943, just 5 years before Israel became an official state. The famous military man joined the IDF soon after, and went on to become the commander of the 7th Armored Brigade. He's known for leading the successful defense of the Golan Heights in the Yom Kippur War, against a surprise attack by 700 Syrian tanks. The famous general also helped plan the Entebbe operation and directed the invasion of Lebanon in 1982 while serving as the head of the Northern Command. Ben-Gal was laid to rest this afternoon in a military cemetery in Tel Aviv, and he leaves behind his wife and 7 children.
הכרתי אותו כמפקד עם שאר רוח וקור רוח בלתי רגילים, אמיץ, חכם, לא מתנשא, אף שידע את ייחודיותו כמפקד, ליבו לא גבה, והוא ידע לתת את ההנחיות המדויקות ביותר בשדה הקרב. יאנוש לקה במחלה קשה, הוא גילה את אותו אומץ לב, את אותה גבורה שקטה. הוא היה פשוט אדם משכמו ומעלה, תרתי משמע. עם ישראל איבד את אחד מלוחמיו הגדולים. יהי זכרו ברוך.
If you're a big fan of Israeli music, you've definitely heard at least one song by the musician Rami Kleinstein. The Israeli superstar is one of the country's most famous music artists. He's a singer, composer, and songwriter, and is responsible for creating some of the country's most iconic songs. Here's an example of just one of his musical masterpieces.
נושם את האוויר, האור והצל משחקים שוב תופסת. השולחן ערוך, תמונות ילדות על הקיר, שיירות לבנות חוזרות מבית כנסת. והריח הזה ששורט לי את הלב, מתגנב, פותח דלתות ללא שהוקעת אל אותו שיר ישר שעובר אצלנו במשך דור אותנו שלח בי מתנות רסיסים של כוונה עיגולים של
Rami, it's a pleasure to have you here in the studio with us. I love this song. It's one of my favorite Israeli songs, actually.
Thank you very much.
So you've now started working with Keren Peles, who is another huge Israeli artist in this country. Tell us a bit about what it's like to perform together.
It's a very special connection that we've made. We started working about 2.5 years ago, actually starting from scratch. I called her because I know Keren for many years. And I just picked up the phone and said, Keren, why don't we try to write together? And it was very pure. It just started from something that, let's just try and do this, to collaborate. And it was like magic because we made one song, we created one song, and then we met again and created another one. And we meet at my studio around at 10 o'clock at night, and 5 o'clock in the morning we have a new song. And it's something that I didn't have that kind of experience with anybody before. And so after like 16 songs, we said, hey, we have an album. We could start working on an album. And then things led to having actually to start performing together and having these new songs out on the radio, very, very successful. So it was just a question of time to start performing together, and it's a very, very special performance. She's on the piano, I'm on the piano, and you have a great band. And she sings songs that I wrote, and I sing songs that she did. We're on stage all the time.
Which must be such a unique experience to be performing another person's music as well,
That's right. But I really admire her writing, and it's actually really, it's like two matching gloves. That's the feeling. It's very, very nice.
So you were born in the United States, and you actually made Aliyah to Israel when you were 8 years old. So can you tell us a little bit about that? What was it like to be an Ole Chadash at the time?
Well, it wasn't that easy. Our Aliyah was also a bit abnormal because we came one time. It was in '68 for 1 year, and then we went back for another 2 years, and then we came back again. So. My language, we had like kind of language problems. I knew English, because I was born in the States. And then we came to Israel and I had to learn Hebrew. And then I forgot my English. So I had to go back to the States and I had to learn English again. And then when we went back to Israel, I forgot all my Hebrew. So I had to learn Hebrew again.
It's like the issues of the Olim Chadashim in Israel,
Exactly. And it's a culture shock. It's different. But I actually, the only member of my family who decided very early on that Israel is where I want to be. It was very different, being here than a lot of friends and this feeling of being part of this country came very early on. With me. So, my father lives in Boston today, and my mother and my sister, they had about 14 years in the United States after my sister finished the army, and my older sister, she was there for another 12 years. I'm the only one who actually rooted here.
You said you're full time.
Yeah, so it's like, for me, there's always going to be this, there's this kind of, two parts of me. It's also, I think it's also part of my culture. But this heart is Israeli.
So how has that experience influenced the music that you make today?
Well, I think that being born in the United States and I think the first 5 years of any child are very basic. And if you're born here, these first 5-6 years, you're going to be like stamped Israeli. It's the kindergarten. It's being in Gan Sara or Gan Michal or whatever. And I was born with Beatles music in my ears all the time. So coming to Israel, I kind of brought this Western kind of influence in my music. So actually, the first years when I started my career, it was like people saying, "Oh, Rami's bringing this international flavor into Israeli music." But then years go by, and the DNA starts changing, and it's very funny that when people say Rami was born in the United States, he's so Israeli. That for me, that's the biggest compliment.
Well, your music essentially influenced music that exists in Israel today. I mean, that's part of it.
I think so, and I think actually, when you have you have this aliyah coming from so many places in Israel, I think that these are things that you could feel when you come to cosmopolitan New York or very places where you have people from international places all around the world. Then you have a very special place. Now Israel is like that. Israel is like that because you have Edot HaMizrach, and you have Ethiopians, and you have Russians, and you have South Americans, and you have Anglo-Saxons, and you have and all this builds what we are, our culture, our Israeli culture. But we're very young. We're only 50 or 60 years old.
Right, and what's interesting right now is that you were a judge in The Voice in Israel. Yes, viewers, there is a Voice in Israel. That's a show that exists. Yeah. And we see a lot of new immigrants that are coming to this country to try to build their music career. What type of advice would you give to these people?
I think that and it really doesn't matter if you're coming to Israel or you're going to another country. There's something very very deep about being part of a culture. It takes time. It takes time to integrate. It's a matter of time and it's a matter of drive. So when somebody comes from a different country comes to Israel, I think it takes years for this DNA to change, and then it's just a question of if you want to hold that out and you really want to be part. It's being part. There are parts of you that if you come from the United States and you come to Israel, there are parts of you that will not change. That's what's special about you. And then there's the influence. It's the environment that kind of influences you. And then what turns out is what you are in 2016. So for people to make aliyah here, and if they want to go to The Voice, if they want to try themselves out in The Voice, they would probably sing in English, and that's fine in The Voice. But bottom line, this is Israel. You need to have a good language, and you need to have an understanding of it. It's not only a question of language; it's a question of culture.
Absolutely. So here's a big question that everybody wants to know: where can we see you perform next?
Well, we started performing, Karen and I. We were in Heichal HaTarbut in Tel Aviv last week. We had 2 great performances, and on the 27th of February, whoever's coming to Israel now, we're going to be in Haifa in a place called Merkaz HaKongresim. So I don't know how many tickets are left, but it's going to be on the 27th of February.
And you told me you're also going to be performing abroad as well,
And I
right?
will be touring the United States in April. There'll be about 9 dates, but I don't know exactly the exact places. There's you can go in the internet and find my agent, and it's called TEEV, TEEV, TEEV.com. And that's where you could find exactly where I'm going to be in April. But it's going to be about 2 weeks that I'm going to be there.
Absolutely. Well, great. I mean, I'm sure everybody is looking forward to seeing you perform, whether or not that's here in Israel or abroad. And thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Natasha.
If Albert Einstein was alive today, he would be ecstatic. It looks like his century-old theory on the existence of gravitational waves has been proven. Scientists finally detected the waves that Einstein predicted in documents which have just been unveiled by researchers at the Hebrew University. A team of international scientists say they've detected gravitational waves for the first time ever, even though they were predicted by Albert Einstein 100 years ago. The discovery proves Einstein's theory of general relativity, which is one of the two pillars of modern physics.
It's a tremendously important discovery. It's something that tells us something we didn't already know, which is in this case that it's possible to have a binary black hole. We never knew that before. That we know from previous work that neutron stars, which turn into pulsars, can be binary, that there can be in pairs. We never knew for sure that there would be stars that could turn into black holes in pairs and then merge together to form this coalescing black hole and this huge burst of gravitational energy to come out. So that's a spectacular new result for astronomy. This is not just a technological accomplishment and it's not just confirming that Einstein was right. This is saying we now know something we didn't already know about astronomy. Spectacular.
The landmark discovery relating to ripples in space and time opens a new window for the study of the cosmos. The researchers say they detected gravitational waves coming from two black holes that spiraled inward and smashed together some 1.3 billion light-years from Earth. The black holes are 30 times the mass of the Sun.
I think it's very big. I would put this on the same level as the discovery of the Higgs boson, and I would actually go a little bit further, although I'm a bit subjective about this, but I would say that you know, the thing we keep emphasizing and the thing that we all believe is that this is the opening of a new window on the universe. We're now able to probe the universe through gravitational waves, all right? And we've never been able to do that before. In some sense, it's a new sector of understanding. So astronomy is like looking. Gravitational waves are like hearing. So I personally think this is huge, very, very big. And that's why it took so long. It's a very technologically complex process to build these detectors. It took us a long time, but we finally got there.
After Einstein's death in 1955, his archives were willed to the Hebrew University. In 1916, Einstein proposed the existence of gravitational waves as part of his groundbreaking theory of relativity, which depicts gravity as a distortion of space and time triggered by the presence of matter. Until now, scientists had only found indirect evidence of their existence. The head of the university's physics department says the discovery is a partial closing for a journey that started over a century ago. It's Valentine's Day, and if you're out of ideas for a good gift to get your loved one, we have a revolutionary suggestion for you. Forget boring old roses. How about some genetically engineered flowers that smell so good they're even having a positive impact on the environment? Israeli researchers have genetically engineered baby's breath flowers to look and smell even better. The tiny flowers were only available in white. But now Israeli scientists have created a purplish-red version of the fauna, and they've patented it under the name Explora. This year marks the first Valentine's Day that Explora will be available in stores. As most food lovers know, smell and taste go together. So not so surprisingly, the modified Explora flowers taste better to bugs because of their strong scent, attracting more bees and creating better crop yields. So while consumers can look forward to buying a sweet-smelling and special gift for their loved ones, it turns out the Explora flowers can help out farmers and business owners too. And now for our Hebrew word of the day, it's Valentine's Day, the cheesy holiday of love. So today's word is obviously ahava, which means love. Interestingly, the root of the word ahava is hav, which is to give in ancient Hebrew. The idea is pretty touching, right? The Hebrew language literally suggests that in order to love, you must also be ready to give. Ahava might be rooted in ancient Hebrew, but it's definitely still used today. It might be surprising, but Israelis are generally really warm and caring people, and they always like to make sure that their family and friends feel loved. So don't freak out if an Israeli tells you, I love you in Hebrew, which is ani ohev otach. That doesn't necessarily mean they're in love with you. This might sound funny, but there's actually no difference between the word like and love in modern Hebrew, so I guess that means that you don't have to be shy when you're talking about love. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. It's the beginning of a lovely new week. Monday is expected to be sunny with a high of 77 degrees. The sun should stay out through Tuesday, and the temperature will stay the same. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.88 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at ILTV.tv, and don't forget to check out our evening update every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, and see you tonight.